Dear everybody, dear high school students, university students, colleagues, guests, welcome at the University of Nova Gorica. It is my utmost pleasure and really an honor to welcome at our university Miss Sunite Lyn, who is a NASA astronaut and also of Slovenian descent. Now, I would like to say that being a rector of university has very few benefits. However, one of those is that you get to meet very interesting persons, very important persons, politicians, even celebrities. Now, I know from my previous encounter with Miss Williams that she is probably the nicest and the most warm person that I had an opportunity to meet during my mandate as a rector. I'm sorry, Minister, I prefer astronauts over politicians. So I'm really glad that we will be able to have a short discussion with Miss Williams. You will be able to pose some questions. This discussion is also broadcasted due to the limited capacity of this room. Is broadcasted to several high schools, elementary schools, both in Slovenia and on the other side of the border in Italy. I would, of course, also like to take this opportunity to thank the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Slovenians abroad for organizing and making this visit possible. So, without further ado, I would like to give the floor to the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Slovenians abroad, Mr. Matej Arčon.
Hvala lepa, dobro jutro, good morning. My introduction will be in Slovene because I'm Slovenian minister for Slovenian abroad. Meni je tudi veliko čast, da smo danes tukaj. Predvsem pa večkrat rad poudarim, da naš resor je najlepših in najboljših resorjev v vladi, ker dejansko skrbimo za Slovence izven svojih meja, v zamejstvu in po svetu. In prihod gospe Sunite Lyn je dokaz, kako je Slovenija lahko povezana na različnih področjih, da imamo izredno uspešne Slovence in druge državljane slovenskih korenin in da na ta način lahko utrjujemo vezi ne samo v zamejstvu, ampak tudi po svetu. Veliko pozornosti na našem uradu vlagamo v zadnjem obdobju na povezovanju na gospodarskem področju. Ravno ta teden smo imeli kar nekaj sestankov z deležniki, ki delajo na področju gospodarstva, se pravi, želimo izkoristiti naš potencial, ki ga imamo izven naših meja in dejansko dokazati, kako je Slovenija pravzaprav velika. Smo ena redkih držav, ki tako sistematično skrbi za Slovence izven svoje matične domovine in dejstvo je, da smo na te absolutno ponosni. Ponosni na njihove dosežke in da dejansko tudi promovirajo najlepšo državo na svetu. Jaz sem vesel, da je gospa Sunite Lyn danes tukaj z nami. Bila je pred par meseci bolj inkognito pri obisku svojih prednikov in takrat sem ji opeval to našo primorsko in področje, s katerega tudi jaz prihajam in evo, danes se je ta dan tudi zgodil in vesel sem, da bo vam danes predavala ne kako je samo na zemlji, ampak tudi na vesolju. Hvala in prijeten dan, srečno.
Welcome everyone. So my name is Andrea Gomboc. I'm professor of astronomy here in Ajdovščina, and I would like to invite Ms. Williams to start a short conversation with me, and then we will take questions from the audience. So please. So it is a great honor, really, and a tremendous pleasure to welcome you here in Ajdovščina, in the Gorička region. And I would like to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Government Office for Slovenians Abroad who made this visit possible. And of course, a big thank you to you for your visit and for taking the time to be with us here today. Ajdovščina is small but great, I would say. This is something similar that we could say also about our planet Earth, right? Yes. It is small but great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Ajdovščina is a relatively small city, but it's great in kind people and capable people, as is the whole Gorička region. It has beautiful nature and also rapid development of high-tech industry in the past few years. And last but not least is hosting the School of Science of the University of Nova Gorica, with its supporting research laboratories and centers. So we are very proud of our Center for Astrophysics and Cosmology here, which is the largest astrophysics group in Slovenia, with 25 members from 12 different countries. So it is very international, and this is also an environment which is in this respect similar to the environment of the International Space Station, right? We are participating in large international astrophysics projects, ground-based and spaceborne. We participate in missions from European Space Agency, ESA, and we are very proud to say that the most recent honorary doctor of the University of Nova Gorica is Professor Carol Mondel, who is the Director of Science of the European Space Agency, even to say that she's the first female Director of Science of ESA. So we put a lot of emphasis on work with young people, engaging their interest in space, as I think it's also evident here in the audience today. So very warm welcome from all of us here. So your career is breathtaking, amazing, and inspiring. You have been on the International Space Stations 3 times, spent 608 days and 19 minutes in total in space. Yeah. You made 9 spacewalks, lasting in total 62 hours and in 6 minutes. Wow. And in the last visit with the Boeing Starliner test flight, this lasted, as we all know, more than just 8 days as it was planned. So it lasted 9 months in the end. And however, we never heard you complain in any way about that. So while we were waiting for you to come, we looked at the short video about your growing up in Slovenia, a video that was made in 2013 by our colleague Jasna Hribernik, about how you became an astronaut and how it is to see the universe from space. As I am a scientist, I will start with the first question about science. So on the ISS, there are loads and loads of experiments. Could you tell us a little bit more about those? So they are in microgravity, and this is something different than we have here on Earth. You study very different topics, from biology, from human health to viruses and plants, physical sciences, from fluid dynamics, materials, Earth observations, communications, technology, and so on. So which experiments did you enjoy the most?
Well, so it's a hard question, but first of all, thank you so much for the kind invitation to come here. This is a beautiful region. I've heard a lot about it. And so, there's lots of other things besides for science here too. So I'm looking forward to looking around. Sorry, it was a little bit foggy this morning because I was looking out the window and wanted to see a little bit more of the countryside, but I think that will happen this afternoon. But thank you again so much for the invitation. Thank you for showing me some of the laboratories downstairs as well. It seems like amazing things are happening, and I can't help but think about the experiments that are happening downstairs, how we could put them into space. It just, that is like, it's sort of, I don't know why, I just think about that all the time. How could we actually do some of the groundbreaking, amazing science that we're doing here in space? And why I say that is, and I was mentioning earlier, is one of my amazing colleagues, Don Pettit. If you've ever heard of his name, if you haven't, please look him up, because his astrophotography is just incredible. And that's, if you see some amazing photos from space, generally they're from this gentleman, Don Pettit. And he's also, of course, a scientist, And one of the things he related to me is, gravity is such a big factor on everything we deal with here. I mean, that's just why we are shaped and formed the way we are, is all because of gravity. And you forget that. You don't even think about it. But that's why our bones are the way we are. That's why our bodies are the way we are. So every morning, he would get up at 4 a.m. He's crazy, I'll just say, at least 4 a.m., maybe earlier, and he would do some science of opportunity because his brain was always thinking about how can I show that this is a different environment and what can we do here that is unique. And I was his little lab assistant. I would get up a little later, 5 o'clock, 5:30, and I would see that he's in the middle of something, and I'm like, can I get you some water? Can I get you a battery for a camera? Can I do something? And it was always amazing things that he was doing. So yes, we did some incredible science up there. We're understanding just the process of potentially, this is not done, but just in general, stem cell research, DNA sequencing, little combustion on different types of particles. I had my ability to participate in all of that. I was not trained on some of the dissections we were doing, but we got to help out with the basics of all of that, like cleaning the habitats and getting the habitats ready. So there's a wide range of experiments that we were working with. But Don just really brought home to me the uniqueness of the environment of space. Watching crystals grow, hopper crystals grow, where the outside edges are more prominent than the faces. I mean, this only can happen in space. It's pretty incredible. And just watching what water can do, just basic understanding of sound and vibration. I was telling another group of students, we had a speaker up there that he would put a sphere of water on it, and we would play different types of music. Everything from classical to AC/DC hard rock, and we would watch the water actually vibrate with the different types of sounds based on different types of instruments. We actually got it to the point where it exploded, which was pretty incredible. But all of this type of stuff is if you just open your mind to new ideas, you can see the differences from here on Earth and up in space. And I thought every morning was a joy. And then doing the specific science that I mentioned was also incredible. And even things that are very basic that we sort of take for granted, capillary action, which is on my very first flight, we did some basic capillary action experiments just to see how fluid with different viscosities would rise on a different type of vein. That actually led to just observations. I think I mentioned it real quickly downstairs. I didn't know so much about this. I don't have all the math background to understand it, but just watching and saying something like, oh, wow, that was fast. And I was recording and talking to the scientist at the same time. And he's like, wait, what? We didn't predict that was going to happen. Do that one more time and let's watch what's happening here, which led to new equations for the processes that they were looking at. Come full circle, that was in 2007. Oh gosh, some of you probably were like in kindergarten or maybe not even born, but come full circle to now, we were using some of those principles in simulated hydroponic growth of plants, how this capillary flow would work so we can optimize how we feed plants in microgravity. So it does have, even though they're just sort of maybe foundational ideas about science, they have some very practical applications which we're going to be able to use in the future. So I can't tell you which is my favorite. It's too hard. There's so much to talk about, so it's too hard.
One more question about laboratories. So it seems that there are several laboratories on the station. Of course, everything has to be more or less tied down, otherwise it floats. What is the other main difference, let's say, that you would say between the laboratory in space or on the ground?
So we are very lucky that the space station is plumbed with resources. So you can have, when we say laboratory, we go downstairs to a specific room, right? But we just have maybe a rack, like a portion of the space station that is essentially a laboratory, because you can have all of the resources that you need, vacuum, different types of gases, plumbed into that rack specifically for what you're going to do. So there's a lot of laboratories all over the place, and you can take advantage of the height of the area that you're working. Like this room to me, and the fact is wearing away that I was in space, but still, when I look at this room, it looks huge, honestly, because I think of all of this extra space above your heads that we're
You
not
would have instruments.
we're not even
ceiling.
using. Yeah, we would have instruments all over the place, and they would be floating. And you don't need a seat. You know, this is wasted space here. You don't need a desk. You know, you can just Velcro something to the wall, or have like what we call a bogan arm, some type of support structure, just so the laptop would potentially stay steady for you. So that it's a different thought process of how we do experiments in space. And then some of them are recessed into the wall, like the glove box, the science glove box, microgravity science glove box. And so then when we need to use them, we can just pull them out into the space that we're operating at. And sometimes we are just hands. We're just the lab technicians, not just, I shouldn't say it that way, but we are the ones who are precisely doing what the scientists want us to do. We set all the experiments up, and then the thought process also is just close it up and let it do what it's going to do in microgravity. We stop disturbing it. This dumb human being is disturbing this experiment. So stop disturbing it, put it back into its area where it can do its whatever its action is.
Great, many thanks. And now I propose that we take questions from the audience. We received lots and lots of questions, so we selected a few of them. I hope we will be able to go through all of them. For those in the background, I would ask that we see your recent movie from your recent Expedition 72.
Okay.
Okay?
I think if we're talking during this while it's going on, then maybe we don't play any sound with it. It has sound.
Yeah.
But one thing, just if you can take a look at, if my voice is boring you, and you're looking up here at the screen, it's a really amazing time in science and space exploration. We have the ability at this moment in time with the International Space Station to compare 3 different spacecraft, 3 different rockets, 3 different spacesuits, 3 different software algorithms to get us to space. And that's all identified here on this video with the Starliner, the Dragon, and then the Soyuz. And it's really interesting to contrast and compare. And we are very lucky that we actually get to go in all of those spacecraft, look at them, optimize, figure out which one we like best, which parts of each of them we like best, and how we can use those that optimization as we go on and build our next spacecraft and go on further for exploration. So it's a very unique time. I think I'm very jealous of you guys who were in kindergarten when I flew my first flight.
Yes. Thank you. So I would like to start maybe with a question from our student, Mikhail Galev. Are you here around?
Hi.
Yes.
Question is, what physical phenomenon like?
Yeah, you please pass the microphone to anyone who is talking so we can all hear you.
My question is, what physical phenomenon behaved most differently in microgravity than you had previously expected from training and intuition based on Earth?
Well, I think overwhelmingly bubbles in water. Water is we take it for granted. We pour a glass of water, we pour water into a fish tank. It's easy here on Earth. When you have, or you use water, you put it in a oxygen generation system, or put it in a environmental control system for our own bodies. How we're going to transfer water from one place to the other. Bubbles are a pain. So bubble technology, if we could really figure out, and I know there's people who are working on this, how to separate water from bubbles in any other way besides for just having the astronaut be a manual centrifuge, that would be really great, because that obviously cavitation with bubbles causes problems. So if we can optimize that for the systems in the future, that would be really awesome.
Thank you. And the next question, also a little bit related to that, is from Natalia Badalic from Gimnazija Nova Gorica. Yes.
We could share this. Stay. Thank you.
So in physics class, we learned that object's mass determines its inertia, so regardless to its weight. I'm curious about how your brain adapts to this. It's harder to tame and precisely move massive objects in microgravity because your body isn't giving your sensory feedback on how heavy they actually are. Have you ever been surprised by an object inertia because you underestimated it since it appeared light when it was floating?
Yes, and I think this is the shorter video, but I was very happy. Good hair, but and I have a longer video that's probably out there and probably going to be on the internet if it's not already. We put together we had all these pieces of tungsten all throughout one of our cargo ships, and we had to put it all together, 800 pounds of tungsten. It's part of an ESA exercise equipment that will be later put together on the space station. But this thing looked like Thor's hammer, if you guys are familiar with Thor's hammer, right? And that is amazingly huge, right? It was, well, not huge, but the mass of it is just incredible. When we were shaking this thing, I'm moving, it's not moving. I mean, it was weird, right? So that's a very basic understanding or visualization of what the concept you're talking about. How we were just playing. But in practicality, how that works is when you're moving something throughout the space station or in space, particularly on a spacewalk, you have to be very careful when you have big masses. We have like 4 times the size of this table is an ammonia tank. And sometimes we have to move that. And we would be on the end of the robotic arm, so we'd just be carrying this. But if you go like this and just try to move it fast, bad news, because that thing is just going, right? So it's gonna take you right off the robotic arm with it. So when you have a mass that's big and you have to worry about momentum, you're just very careful about how you're moving it. Inside the space station, yeah, of course you can bonk something, you can hit something and have some problems. But when you're outside, you have to really be careful about that. Great question.
Thank you. And the next question will be by Kristina Prosen from Gimnazja Vipava. Please, Kristina.
But I'd like my students to ask.
Ah, yes. Okay, I thought that was a student. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
So, which was the most stressful part about the mission, and how did you cope with stress in space?
What was the most stressful part? I think it was about 2 months worth of wondering what we were going to do. I think that was the part that was the most stressful. But because at one point in time when we docked to the space station, we knew we had a problem. So we knew that there would be some work to understand whether or not we were going to come home on the Starliner spacecraft. It actually took pretty much all summer for that decision to be made. So there was a little, I think the unknown is always uncomfortable to everybody in every circumstance, not just us, but everything. When you're waiting for something that you don't know what's going to happen, that's uncomfortable. And it was absolutely uncomfortable. Are they going to be able to figure it out? Are they going to assume too much and then maybe we will or we will not go back in that spacecraft? So all of that time frame, you only have so much control because you can only ask so many questions and people have to actually do work and experiments to answer those questions. So it was a little bit stressful. So what do? I think I heard myself on the radio yesterday. I answered this question a little bit. You fill in the time. And as in good Slovenes, we don't like to be lazy. So we like to work. So the things that I knew, right? I didn't practice for these science experiments beforehand, but I did know how to fix the toilet. I did know how to stock the food. So, like while you guys go and do your experiments and do the things that are important for the space station's, job, let me do the other things that make sure that the place is ready to go for everybody else. I'll work on the toilet. I'll do the food. I'll do it, whatever cleaning needs to happen, and taking the time. And I think when you keep yourself busy, that takes away some of the stress, obviously, right? And that's a good thing. And then secondly, I think the biggest thing was knowing that I wasn't going to spend some time with people that I had planned on Earth. And the second part of that is the support structure that goes along with any adventure that you go on. If you know people back home are cutting the grass or walking the dog and paying all the bills, that it makes you feel a little bit better. And my family, my husband and my sister and my mom were like, go ahead, have a good time. We'll take care of everything. Don't worry. Maybe they were having some fun without me. I don't know. But that is, I think, something as you go and endeavor new things in your life, just having your support structure back at home, I think, is really important.
Thank you. I propose we continue with a question by Tilen Kobal from Gimnazja Nova Gorica. Tilen? That's all.
We just happen closer. I know.
Did your view of Earth or humanity change after seeing it from space?
Did my perception about humanity change, essentially? Absolutely, yeah. First of all, like, I knew this from before, like, because I've flown in space 3 times now. So my thought process about us on Earth, of course, from the very first time I saw Earth was like, wow, that's it. You know, and it really felt like this is it. This is our planet that we are all on. And 71% of it's ocean also, as a reminder, which means only 29% of it is, or 28% really, is landmass, and that's where we live. And how we should actually share this together and maybe work together and cooperate while we're here on this little planet, this little space station we're on. So that absolutely became so true even from my very first flight. And I was telling some folks earlier also that this flight was a little bit different because when I came back, people that I don't even know, never seen before, they don't know anything about me too. That's another interesting thing. They know I'm an astronaut, but they don't know like politically where I stand, or they don't really know too much about my ethnicity or who I am or what I believe in, right? But whenever I would see people on the street when I first came back, because of my crazy hair, and people noticed who I was, would be like, oh my gosh, well, I'm so glad you're back. We were thinking about you, we were praying for you, or we were doing, we were worrying about you, hoping you're going to come back. And it really reminded me that, like, just in general, like, you can't help but think that people are really nice. People from every walk of life, they're good, and we actually really care about each other. And I think we forget that on a daily basis because we argue too much and we don't listen to each other. And if we did a little bit more listening, I think that impression would be true for everybody.
Yes, that is so true. Thank you. And now I invite Živa Kverch from Gimnazja Nova Gorica.
You're getting a good workout. She's up, she's down. Like this.
Hi, so my question is, does anything impress you on Earth after going to space? And what are your other challenges that are left for you to achieve?
Oh, does anything impress me on Earth? Are you kidding me? Everything. I mean, oh my gosh. I think going to space and looking at the planet that way gives you an idea of like, oh, I want to go there. I want to go there. I want to see that. I want to see this. I had no idea the ski jumps were in Planica. Oh my God, this was totally impressive. Yesterday, as we were standing at the base and some jumper is ready to go, I'm like, oh, how are you so brave to be able to do this? So yes, a lot of things impress me back here on Earth. Even obviously what humans can do, but just nature. And this is a wonderful country for that. I think, my first impression of Slovenia is how beautiful it is. And you have everything here, from ocean to mountains to fields to good wine and other things like that, as well as wonderful universities. So yes, this small country absolutely impresses me, but so much more to see. I haven't been to, I would love to go to base camp in the Himalayas to see, to see that whole area near Mount Everest, of course. I would love to go to Antarctica, see that. I would love to go to the Arctic Circle. I'd love to see a polar bear one day. Not too close though. Yeah. So I mean, I know. There's so much on this planet that I haven't experienced. I would venture to guess all of you have not experienced, and there's so much to do and so little time, as they say. So yes, a lot impresses me. I am actually just retired from NASA. So I am now a private citizen, which allows me to just do whatever I want to do on my time, which is one of the reasons I'm spending some time here with you guys, because I have some time to be able to do that. And so I think for a little while, my story is somewhat interesting to people, and so I'd like to relay that as best as possible, and I'd like to hopefully inspire some folks to get into the STEM fields and do this type of stuff if you're interested in it, because it's really fun. Life is fun, and you have to make it fun. So that's what I would like to propagate for folks.
Thank you very much for these wise words. And I invite now Erin Umuzigazuba, our student, to pose her question.
Not too far.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good morning. So you were the first person to run a marathon on the space station. And I was wondering, how did you prepare, and what were the major differences and side effects that you experienced?
Well, marathons are pretty horrible. I know. If anybody has run it. By the way, these pictures of the Earth are just incredible. Don and Butch primarily did most of the time lapses here. I just have to. I'll answer the marathon question in a second, but. There's some amazing aurora. If we didn't stay up there, then the summer of 2024, we wouldn't have flown through the aurora. It came so far down. It was just incredible to see. Some other things just to point out in this picture, something new in the right-hand corner, this little lights that are going by, those are Starlink satellites. They never were there before. So in the last 10 years, we have been able to put all these satellites up, so many people have communications, but we see them. There's a lot of space stuff up there. And the last thing I just want to point out at the pictures is you'll see some lightning. And lightning is really cool. You know, there's energy interacting, obviously, with our planet. But Dawn was able to take, with our really high-tech cameras, pictures where we finally now have documented red sprites and blue jets, energy coming up and out of the clouds. Incredible. Like the cameras are cool. Like, think of this. Who thought of this idea that the camera, since it has a chip in it, could be continually taking pictures but not saving it, just continually taking. If I press the button, it will save pictures 5 seconds before I press the button and 5 seconds after I press the button. That's how you can get pictures like that. So that I was like, who came up with this idea? This is incredible. So you could see these things happening, but previously we were never able to take pictures like this. So I just had to point that out. Okay, back to the horrible marathon. I'm actually training. I hope, knock on wood, that I'll be able to do one in April. So I'm cutting it close, and this is exactly what I did when I ran the marathon too. We had a couple spacewalks, I think in the very beginning of February, and I had to be ready in April to run the marathon, late April. So, you have a base. Everybody has a base, like 5-6 miles or however, whatever your base is. So maintaining that up until the time that we did the spacewalks, because I didn't want to hurt myself beforehand. And then after that, every weekend I would go and run a long distance, so 10 miles and 15 miles. And I got up to about like 13, 14 miles, and I called it quits at that point in time, because you saw what the harness looks like and how you're running on the treadmill. It's not entirely comfortable. It gives a little bit of chafing on your shoulders, on your hips. It's okay. If it's okay for shorter distances or sprinting workouts, because we have also now looked at more interval work is comparable to long times on the treadmill, which is better for the equipment potentially, and it doesn't do the wear and tear on your your skin, but good for your cardiovascular system. Anyway, I got on that treadmill and said, let's go, here we go. We had a bunch of water lined up, and I was like, we'll just see what happens. And unfortunately, the darn treadmill didn't breakdown, which I was hoping for it to stop working so I would get off of that thing, but it kept going, and like 4.5 hours later, I finished it. I had a second change of clothes, because another aspect of working out in space is the water doesn't fly away, it just sits on you. So I was like soaking wet. It was like I was in a bathtub or in a shower, and my fingers were all wrinkly by the time I finished it. So it was a little painful, but we got it done. And my whole rest of the crew got up near the end, and we had just brought a new crew up, so we had oranges. So they cut the oranges slices up, and they were throwing them at me to catch. And I got nervous because, you want the evidence. I wanted that the treadmill said 26.2, and they're all flying around. I'm like, don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it. But everyone was good, and then I was able to take that picture, and I finished it up.
Great.
Sorry, I talk a lot.
No. I wish we had more time. No. We could listen to you for hours and hours. So next question from Jascha Sirk, Gimnazija Nova Gorica.
I know, good. Yeah, she needs extra.
Good morning. My question is, what surprised you in space the most, even though you spent years preparing for the mission?
What surprised me? This time, this time, of course, because we got stuck there. I guess that was a surprise. But, that was not the plan. I think we actually, in that regard, we were planning for probably a month up there. In reality, we thought, well, there's going to be some things that we'll have to figure out and we'll have to work on it. It won't just be 8 days. It'll, maybe wishful thinking it was going to be a month or so. But that long, knowing that what we had happen, we were going to be there for a little while. But it just living in space is different. And I'm circling back to my first flight. Just being able to do whatever you're going to do up there is different. What surprised me, I think, the most, and I should have known this, is you lose things. You lose things all the time, and that's really annoying, particularly like your spoon that you're eating with, and then that, just for, it has a piece of Velcro. Just for a second, I'm going to Velcro it down to the table, and then somebody comes by I hit it with my arm or something, and you lose a lot of things, which is just unfortunate, because
just floats away.
It just floats away, and you have to get used to that. And now I think I'm a little bit better at it now. I'm third time's the charm, to tether things, to Velcro things, to put things in pockets. Even if you put things in pockets that have like a button or a snap, somehow they figure their way out. It's like, how does it happen? So being very intentional is definitely a characteristic I would suggest. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Then let's continue with Misha Gregoric from Gimnazija Nova Gorica.
Thank you. I'm curious, did your perception of time change in space compared to when you're on Earth? Do you think time is a different concept in space? If so, how?
Wow. Not so much. We're pretty close to the Earth, right? So we still have that as a reference point. Granted, we're going around the Earth, an hour and a half. And so that sunrise, sunset is not what I'm really talking about. Just being in close proximity to the Earth, you have an idea that people are sleeping at a certain time, people are waking up at a certain time, so that in your head is there. I think the bigger impression about time from where we are, now if we start going farther away in this solar system, that what I just said might change. Your thought process on that might change. But for us, I think just like any other expedition, I think time slows down and speeds up in your perception, not in reality, but in your perception. Like at some point in time when it was like, okay, we're going to be here for 6 more months, it's like, 6 more months. It's like everything is like feels like it's in slow motion. But when you get done to, past like 2/3 of your time there, like when it became February and, in early March, it was like all of a sudden time was accelerating. And there was a thought we were going to come home in May, And so it was like, okay, we're relaxed. We still have some time. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, now it's March 19th. You're coming home. It's like, time is flying really fast. But that's all I think in your perception. I think that is very similar to anything here on Earth. If you go, like when I was in the Navy, on a deployment, it was the same type of thing. Time sort of just changes based on how much time you have left.
And I guess to keep the normal rhythm, you have to be very self-disciplined to go to sleep when it's time to go to sleep, because you don't have really day and night like we have. I mean, you have it 14 times a day.
Right. Interestingly enough, right? So we have lights, we put lights on the ceiling, if you want to call it a plane of the space station. So all the language is all written in that way, so that like up is up, and that's where the lights are, right? And we use those lights very bright during the day, and then we start to dim them as the nighttime comes, and then shut them off except for near the bathroom at night, so people will know where to go. But that way you sort of start this, your circadian rhythm helps. There's actually but we manually do that. There is an experiment from ESA that you have a light in your crew quarters, in your sleep station, as you probably saw here, that will automatically do those light changes for you. So in your head, if you're hanging out, if you're in your sleep station, your brain is gonna sense that the sun is going down or the sun is coming up. It's a little annoying though, because sometimes you go to your office even at night, right? And you want to turn the lights on to do some work, and now the light in your sleep station is going away, fading. So I think one suggestion I would have for that experiment is maybe we put that process in the bigger part of the space station. And then if somebody wants to go into their sleep quarters, like their office, to do some work, they can do that. But the whole station is slowly fading to darkness, and then slowly waking up.
Thank you. Let's continue with the question from Toshica, Nova Gorica. Where are they?
Yes, hello. My question is, so as an astronaut, what do you do when you're not on missions in space? Like, what do you do here on Earth?
That's a great question, because I've been an astronaut for a long time, over 20 years, over 25 years. I won't again remind myself that you guys were very young a long time ago. But and I've flown in space 3 times, and everyone goes, "Oh my God, you've flown in space so much, 600 days." But that's less than 2 years out of 25 years, right? So there's other things that we do. So when we first get there, everybody comes from different backgrounds. I, of course, was a helicopter pilot, test pilot. There's other pilots and test pilots, other people from the military, but that's only one section, and maybe about a third. Then we have scientists, engineers, doctors, a veterinarian we've had for a long time. So everybody comes from teachers, comes from different backgrounds. So we want to get everybody on the same playing field. So we learn all about different spacecraft. We learn about the agencies and the space program and what we're doing and what we're going to do in the future, and how people's background can add to what we're going to do in the future. So all of that is what we learn for about 2 years. It takes about 2 years. As part of that are some of the technical skills that you'll use, how to do a spacewalk. That process is quite long. Also, how to fly a robotic arm, manipulate a robotic arm. We also learned, all of us fly in a T-38 aircraft, and now we're getting ready to start flying helicopters as well, to get ready for vertical landings back to the moon. So all of these skills are worked on for a couple years. And then once you graduate, what we call ASCAN, Astronaut Candidate School, sort of sounds like trash can, but at ASCAN. Once you graduate ASCAN, then you're ready for assignment, and then you get assigned to a flight. And the assignment, each of these flights are a little bit different. There's different things that we will do on them, so you'll take some time to train for that. So that's like a couple years, 2.5 years to train for a space station flight. So that's all the training part of it. And then there's continual training. After you fly, you're going to continually do some of that training to keep all your skills up. But we also have technical jobs, again, potentially based on your background. Like we have doctors in the astronaut office, and so we have a lot of biology, biological sciences and medical things that, issues that come up, as thinking about what's going to happen for the future, how are we going to deal with sicknesses when we get to the moon, get to Mars. And so they would be working on those problems and processes with the program. I went to Russia, for example, and worked with the Russian engineers as they were translating the Russian procedures into English. I would be the procedure validation person and go through it all and make sure it made sense if the person who was reading it in English had to do the task. I also worked in the robotics branch, so I went to Canada and worked with the Canadians on the Special Dexterous Manipulating Arm, SPDM. I don't remember the exact acronym, but the end of the arm, how we would use that, how we would fly that. Now it's mostly ground operated. I was also the director of operations in Russia, so after I flew on the Soyuz, I went to Russia and was sort of like in charge of making sure everybody had a place to stay, had, all the coordination for their training schedule. So there's a lot of different jobs. I was also deputy chief of the astronaut office. We take care of ourselves, our own, as we're getting ready to assign different people to different flights. So just trying to optimize who is on those flights. And then there's also astronaut selection, which is all of our office participates in astronaut selection. So when we're ready, it's every couple of years, 2 to 4 years, we select a new astronaut class. For example, I would read all the helicopter candidates. The doctors would read the medical candidates. So you're not outside of your box of understanding the qualifications of people applying and coming. And then there's a whole interview process with that. So there's a lot to do. We're always running out of people. So come and join us.
You're never bored, I guess.
Never bored. Yes.
Yeah. Let's continue with the question from Francesco Xotta, our student.
Hi. So my question is, how is it to stay on the station with a lot of people? And do you receive psychological assistance during your stay?
Okay. Yeah. Yes. So I've been on the space station when there's been 3 people, and then as you probably saw, there was like 12 of us up there for a little period of time. So it can vary quite a bit. And I think what we do before we even go and fly in space, we try to get to know our crewmates. Over this 2 years of training time frame, you're traveling back and forth to different countries with your crewmates, and usually the people in the host country would have planned some type of social get-together so we can meet each other's families. You can know each other's sort of hot points, things that people like, things that they don't like. And that gets a little capitalized on by a background training. Most of us in the U.S., as well as our at least our European and our Canadian counterparts, sometimes our Japanese counterparts, go to National Outdoor Leadership School. And so there we're put in a scenario, maybe it's camping, maybe it's rafting, but someplace away from home, someplace where you don't get to take a shower every day, someplace where you have to make your own food. Sounds familiar, right? And potentially weather makes this scenarios a little bit uncomfortable. And in that process, away from work, you actually get to know your crewmates a little bit better. And you also really get to know yourself a little bit better. What are the things that makes you happy? What are the things that makes you mad? Like, if somebody's very messy, it drives me crazy. Maybe that's because I'm a Virgo. I don't know. But, so those are things that I know. So, like, I have to control how I deal with somebody who doesn't do things the way I do, right? And all of that is, we learn a little bit of about that at Knowles. We learn a lot about that when we're working and training with our crewmates, and having those open discussions is really, really good. We also have, as well as a medical doctor, a flight surgeon who's always talking to us once a week. We have a psychological support that we talk to every 2 weeks or so. And so they get a check on us throughout the increment about how we're doing during that time frame. And then we also get some other fun psychological support They ask our family and friends if they want to send stuff, if there's a cargo mission. I got 3D printed dogs, my dogs. Somebody 3D printed them and painted them. And so in a package I opened up and there's my little dogs floating around in there, which was really super cool. Because then, you know, like it's just like a little pieces of home or food, right? On my first flight, I got Slovenian dried sausage cut up, and unfortunately everybody ate them fast, but you know, it's a little piece of home, and some samosas, you know, from my father's side. So little pieces of home, little cards and things like that. And I think, you know, if you probably saw some of the holidays on the video, little things to celebrate the holidays. It makes it a team while you're up there.
Thank you. And a question from Eduardo Concepcion.
Hello. So I was wondering if in recent years you've seen perhaps a shift in the popular opinion regarding funding space explorations, and I don't know, given the current political economic climate worldwide, if you've seen a shift in opinion.
Money is always going to be a problem. Am I right? I mean, I don't mean to be a pain in the neck, but you know, just not. I'm going to answer your question, but it is always an issue, and I think there's different ways to solve these problems, right? You could wait for the next administration who's more favorable to your specific topic and get more money then, potentially. That's one methodology. But that's if you have shorter term goals. If you have longer term goals, you have to figure out a way to keep doing your work, even though there's ebbs and flows of the potential geopolitical climate, right? I think one of the ways we have done that at NASA is commercialization. And it's the right time to do it. NASA has already been to low Earth orbit a number of times, not saying it's easy, but saying that with new technologies, new manufacturing out there, other companies can do these things. And there's now actually even a competition for doing these things because of the foundational sciences that we've done on the space station and through the shuttle program, as well as our Russian counterparts. So we know a lot of things. We can, you know, capitalize on those things, and how we do that was with commercialization. So that idea has, I think, helped NASA in its goals in low Earth orbit, and it also helps redirect money to other things. What we're better known for, obviously, is exploration. So some of this is like minute exploration on specific science topics, but more exploration on going back to the moon sustainably. We can now redirect money in that regard. We're always going to be strapping for money. The space station, I mean, they're just looking for ideas because all of a sudden the science budget just got cut in the last year. And so some of the science facilities have even started to being decommissioned and shut down. But what can we do while we still have the space station? There's still a lot of science that we can do, things that you don't have to have equipment for, new ways for communication. If we are going to go to the moon or onto Mars, we're not going to have constant communication. So why don't we practice that while we have a space station and try to optimize how we would do that? Give the crew members a task that maybe doesn't have to be monitored by the ground so much, and have them just practice it, see if that actually even works. See if there's experiments that we can come up with that doesn't need ground interaction. And how does that all work? So there's ways to work around it. And yes, money is always going to change. And you always hope that you're going to get the golden ticket and have everything that you're going to want to have. But I guarantee you, in your years of being an engineer, a scientist, a manager, a leader, you're always going to be faced with this problem. And there's hard decisions that have to be made. And that's unfortunate, but it's reality. So we all have to think about where the best bang for the buck is, as they call it, and then make the best of what you have.
Thank you.
Sort of reality, I'm sorry.
Let's go to a question from Natalie Schutz from Gimnazija Nova Gorica.
So what are the dangers in space that you face them, and how do you deal with them or solve them?
Yeah, some dangers in space. I'll give you an example. There's some stuff up there, sort of like those Starlink satellites, but those were not in our direct orbit, so not a big deal. But there is a lot of stuff in space that we need to worry about in the future. There's a lot of satellites up there, and there's a lot of junk. We actually, during our time up there, the main things that we trained for are a fire on board the space station, a depressurization, or some toxic spill of some chemical that's up there, particularly ammonia, because we use ammonia for our cooling systems. So those are things that we train for all the time. And one of the things that we train for with that is if something hits the space station, then we all have to get in our spacecraft, lock ourselves up, and get ready to go home. So that actually did happen. So we were up there with 3 spacecraft, the Starliner, the Dragon, and the Soyuz. And 2 a.m., of course, it never happens. You know, the fire drill never happens when everybody's awake. It's always when everybody's sleeping. 2 a.m., the emission control is like, hey, wake up. I don't know. This person is obviously not a firefighter or not a EMT person. It was a very nice person. Like, hey, I think you guys should wake up. And so we finally all started waking up and like, what is happening? And they're like, well, the satellite below us has exploded. And so we're a little bit concerned about the debris field. And we have about 45 minutes for you guys to get in your spacecraft and close the door. And we're all like, ah. So people are in their pajamas, flying around like, oh my gosh. And we all ended up seeming to meet at the bathroom because there's not great bathrooms in these spacecraft. So everybody wanted to go to the bathroom. So one after another, we're all running in there, going to the bathroom, getting water, and then getting ready to go to our spacecraft. And it was I was mentioning in another group, it was a little surreal because you're hugging your friends, like, bye, I'll see you on Earth. It's a weird thing to say because, Soyuz lands in the desert in Kazakhstan. Dragon lands in the ocean, either the Gulf or the Pacific Ocean. And Starliner was going to land in the desert in the western U.S. And so eventually we would all land and see each other. There's also 3 different times to get home, or there's a way we kick each other off. The Soyuz goes first, the Dragon, and then the Starliner. The Soyuz takes about maybe 7 hours. The Dragon could take, 17 to 32 hours. And Starliner takes about 8 hours to get home. So everybody's coming home, different trajectories. Mission Control is handling 3 different spacecraft. It's a big coordination drill, but this is what we practice for and what we all felt pretty good after we went to the bathroom executing. So we all went in our spacecraft, closed the door, and then 3 hours later, they were like, okay, we're free now. We've gone around a couple times and we see the debris is dispersed, and so you can come back out. But those are like the real scenarios, like the fire drill from when you're a little kid in elementary school. These things sometimes do happen, and you just have to be prepared for them.
Thank you. One more question from Vesna Müller, Vipava. One of the last one before last. Over here.
What is your perspective on the growing role of artificial intelligence in space explorations, and how do you see AI supporting astronauts in the future missions?
Wow, good question. It's a little scary, isn't it? I think anything of the unknown is a little scary, but I think it's really eventually going to help. People have thought about some of this a long time ago, but Nordon, you have a concept, but you don't know how to get there and do something, right? So we actually, on my second mission, we had a robot up there, and we are trying to give it some simple tasks to do, and it was hard for this thing to do it, and I think it ended up getting decommissioned after a little while because we couldn't really get it all together. It was a upper body of a person, and it had a vision. So it could see, and it could maybe try and pick up something, but it was having a hard time. We were thinking, oh, this would be great for some repetitive tasks. And that concept is still true. And so nowadays, I was just watching a 60 Minutes special the other day. I can't remember the name of the company, Boston Dynamics or something. They have robots that now, can walk around and do stuff. And they used AI to do some of the like they'd avatars of this robot, and they would put different initial conditions and see how they would all work. But they were only able to do that with AI helping them with this, thousands of avatars of this robot. And why I bring this specific thing up, over 10 years ago, some astronaut friends of mine wrote a paper about going to the moon, and some of the, the things that we might have to do if we're going to live there sustainably might be repetitive tasks, one after another. Go over here, get this, pile of regolith, bring it over here, drop it in a bin, maybe we, getting oxygen from it or whatever we're going to be doing. But it might be something very repetitive, and it might be dangerous because for a human, because this is many, many, many spacewalks, a lot of resources to do that. So why not have a robot do that? And so if we can integrate AI into these type of technologies where we might be able to really do this with a robot, do some real like human type tasks. And I would suggest you watch this 60-minute special or look into it. It's incredible what they can do. We tried this on the space station over 15 years ago. Aki Hoshide had a vest on, and he was wearing it so that his actions could be simulated into that robot. We couldn't get it all done. They're doing that now. So these technologies take a little while. AI can help. AI always has some crazy things associated with it. I'm sure all of you have used ChatGPT before, hopefully not to do any homework, but just to maybe, come up with some other ways of looking at something. But, it's useful. It's a tool. And if we use it correctly, it will help us take those next steps. I think it's pretty neat.
Thank you. So to conclude, I will have one last question, which is related to AI. So AI used to be science fiction. Right now it's becoming reality. What is your favorite science fiction movie, book, or character?
So I'm not super into science fiction. I think I really like the reality of the people. I don't know why. I think as I've gotten older, I really like understanding how people think. Maybe that is AI though.
Maybe you live science fiction.
Yeah, but one movie that's a little bit in the future, I wouldn't say too far in the future, was The Martian, in one book, movie and book, The Martian. And I really liked it because it explored some of the ideas that we sort of talked about here when there's group living, people together, how they interact and how there's, how they joke around with each other as well as be serious when they're handling serious events. And then there's also a moment in this book or movie when this gentleman is by himself, right? And so there's a lot of introspection about where is our place? What are we doing? How do we solve problems? One little bite at a time, I think was a really interesting thing about that. And I think there's a lot of applicability to it. And I think I'm looking for lessons learned. That's why I really gravitate to that movie. But there's so much more to explore and think about. So make these science fiction movies reality. That's your task.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thanks so much. Would you like to place a courses look at this people to the